All right, everybody, we are back with another episode of Citizen Glitch. And I'm here with Ryan Kalus, the last amazing person I met in Los Angeles before I decided to take the journey here to Seattle, where I am right now. And when I met Ryan, I was like, this guy has the most amazing bullshit detector, and he knows all kinds of things about AI. So I was like, I have to have Ryan come to talk to everybody. Ryan, before we get into today's amazing topic inspired by, you guessed it, you, how are you doing today? And did you want to introduce yourself a little bit to the audience here?
Sure. I'm Ryan. I'm doing good. It's hot in LA. It's the first day of school here in Santa Monica, so my daughter just started first grade. She's currently under the control of some adults that I have no idea who they are. I got my two dogs sweltering in the heat. I'm going to go to the beach later. And yeah, I'm an artist. I'm a commercial design director. I've been working for 16 years in advertising, marketing, big and small clients. And, I've ridden this roller coaster that's been, when I first entered the market, was like 2008, the entire collapse of the economy, the too big to fail, the print is dead, digital is taking over print forever. And I feel like life is like cycles, and now I'm in the cycle of like AI is replacing artists. Instead of a paintbrush, you're going to have a sequence of binary code. This is like, I wake up every single morning and something inspires me out there in the real world, and then I try and capture it and take it and turn it around into something that I express that's real and genuine, and that's our ever continuing pursuit in life, right? How are you?
The endless pursuit of creativity, just to clarify.
The endless pursuit of survival as human beings.
Oh shit. You know what? That's really deep. Wow. The endless pursuit of survival. A lot of people.
Creativity is just me trying to leave a message in a bottle to the future that I ever existed here as a human, in case I get squashed by a meteor or San Andreas Fault, or I drown in the ocean, or I OD, or I get in a car crash, or XYZ. So, I'd rather leave behind my creativity than have a tombstone with an epitaph that says, here lies Ryan and his, and his bones. I just went to LACMA, just finished their new exhibit, the David Geffen Galleries.
Mm-hmm.
For anyone not in LA, LACMA's the contemporary of art, like our MoCA, right? And they built this amazing building that's like way too much space. It's like right when you first move into a new house or a new apartment, and you like realize you need more furniture because you have a bigger space. It's just, there's so much open space. And the weird thing is they curated all of their collection into like all mashed together. So you're time traveling through Egyptian, Mesopotamian to Japanese landscapes, and then you're jumping into, French Impressionist, and then like German Expressionist, and you're going into textiles, you're going into mid-century like furniture design. It is so chaotic in there. And at one point I was walking around and I'm like, I feel like an LLM curated this fucking art experience, because it looked like it tried to group it by how objects look, because they tried to create these custom clusters of, this is all a theme. One of them was like, it was like abolitionism and the colonial trade. And then they would curate 4 pieces together that were from like Mesopotamia, and then Africa, and then Europe, and then even like China. And they were trying to categorize things in the kookiest way. And I'm just like, we really get used to a narrative of how you go through streams of life. And then when you step into one that is very clearly strange and weird and different, like an art gallery would be segmented by groups of an art movement, and then you go from one movement to the next movement. To walk out of one area and then be hit with another different art period was just like so disarming. But I digress. My point was, I was looking at this. There was this Egyptian carving, and I looked at the little template, and it was, I think it was 2343 BC. And I was looking really close, and there was like some Egyptian dude, and they did the hair, and I was just looking at the fine lines, and I'm like, 4,000 years ago, somebody found like the right chisel with the right little mallet, right? And they were like, they got up and they had their millet and their flour, their fruit, their vegetable, whatever they had for breakfast, and they went, all right, I got to finish this thing. And they went and they chiseled, and they were like, okay, the hair is looking good on that. Like, all right, that's good. And somebody was like, hey, did you get that tablet done yet? Like, Josiah. No, that is not an Egyptian name. Ephesius, did you get the tablet yet? Like, the client is waiting on it. He's like, I'm almost done. He's like chiseling it. And then like 4,000 years is not only hanging in a museum, it's not even anywhere near, the Nile River Valley where it was created, right? It's over an ocean into a continent that who knows if they exist or not. I think they did. And it's now like in LA, in some huge philanthropist benefactor created a giant new wing of a municipal art gallery, right? And someone was like, okay, let's put it right here. And then right behind it is a contemporary artist that made something in 1987 that is a pharaoh with this badass, it's like a pharaoh in Compton statue. So there's like fist bump bros, there's like awesome like English typography, like American English typography, and the pharaoh is a dude, and he's got like sick lines for his sideburns, but it's like in the style of Egyptian art. That was what encompassed that David Geffen gallery, and that was what encompassed like my experience of art in the past couple of days. So there's my rant. Wherever that's
I mean, like, I love it. Like, art museums in LA are incredible. I myself have been to LACMA many, many times. And one of my most favorite exhibits in LACMA was the Guillermo del Toro exhibit. It was not just odes to like all his films. It had all the sculptures, but like there was actually a lot of like his diaries, like with his handwriting. I was just like a kid in a candy store, in that exhibit for like 4 hours. Like, so, I mean, I love art. I love art museums. I love art as life. Right now, I mean, like, I feel like I'm living in a living art paradise. Okay, I'm not supposed to keep saying that. I was told that people don't want everyone to know that it's so beautiful where I'm living right now. Somebody stop.
Yeah.
But but you are an AI guy, very much into AI. And that's how we were able to like get talking in the first place. And I love what you proposed. So guys, we're going to get into it, but like, yes, Ryan is someone you want to know. I mean, but really quick before I do, Ryan, you're an artist. Would you describe yourself as like a technical artist, a sculptor, all of the above, multidisciplinary? Because I really loved some of the film stuff you sent over to me.
I'm a trained fine artist. The way that I apply it to make money is definitely like very systematic thinking. But the goal of the systematic thinking is like a consistency built on a really well-built, beautiful brand, a brand that's in touch with its audience and its consumers, and tasteful. And like I do believe that when you design anything in the world right, like the body's a little bit calmer, can navigate stress better. Like if you have a kitchen with products that are well designed, like you can cook faster, like, and be happier. Anywhere you go in the world, if things are designed better, look at like you go to the city of Culver and they just poorly design all the bike lanes and bus lanes and it's chaotic and there's traffic all the time. Look at just the idea of designing a subway system properly in Tokyo versus New York, and it moves and it streamlines faster. So my work has always been kind of big and scaling, and gets complex into, you know, multiple platforms and across multiple things. And I think branding has always been one of my strong suits and my fascinations, because it's one of the things that you can permeate across regardless of what you're doing, sprinkling in the brand in there, and that is like the DNA that subconsciously redirects every single experience that the customer has back to this upper ladder thing. And the reason that like Coke and Mercedes and all these like big brands that have been around for decades and decades can be so entrenched is, you know, branding. It's a huge aspect. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it did. No, it did. It did. Like, I think the thing that you said that meant the most to me was about designing things to have more calm, right? And you notated the Tokyo subway versus like the New York subway. And lucky for me, I had the fortunate experience of living in Japan. I've spent some time in New York. You know, my sister used to live there in Manhattan. You know, she met her husband on Broadway doing Mamma Mia. So, I mean, I have spent some time there, but like the difference between the subways there and the subways in Japan, like it's, you know, I mean, I think that you saying the word calm is actually perfect, because the way they have everything so organized, you do have a sense of calm. Like, no matter what, I'm going to get where I need to go. I'll be fine. There's literally trains that run everywhere. There's multiple different kinds of trains. And I know some people might get a little bit irritated to me when I say this, but calm is a way to handle your emotions, right? And if we design environments that make it easier for people to tap into their calm nature, they're able to make, you know, decisions better. I think a lot of people, they misunderstand what calm means and what the meaning of peace is. They think that just means you're sitting on fucking a top of a mountain and everything is like nirvana and everything is wonderful. Whereas designs towards making things calm recognize, you know, people have chaotic lives. They have places they have to be. They have places they have to go. How can we design something that's well organized and can facilitate calm amongst the chaos? Because calm is a choice that you can always make in a situation that's difficult. I mean, talk about peace in times of cancer, in times of homelessness. I mean, like, how do you navigate? I mean, you have to have systems, you have to have things, you know, organized in a way to kind of like facilitate that, because life isn't just going to suddenly go away. You're not going to just take, you know, the stress out of it, but we do have a choice on how we deal with it. And it's just like, that's why feng shui, you know, is such a big deal. Am I not wrong?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the relationship between calm and a human experiencing the external world around them is really, I think it comes down to accepting your control over that world. And when your world that you're experiencing is better, more thoughtfully designed to anticipate and accept a human, all types of humans, all sizes, scales of humans, and you're one of those multiple people that the world has been designed to accept, you're calm because you're handing over your control. You're finding that you don't have to have like such a stranglehold on as you navigate through a subway system, as you use a coffee machine. Like, you don't have to just like muscle through it, because it's naturally doing what you're expecting it to do, and it's resulting in you not being fucked over, not having a harder time at life. So I think the output of calm means if you're successfully finding that people are calm, chill, zen, you know, serene, whatever, they're okay either handing over their control to either a municipality or a restaurant or a brand, really at all, or they're finding that to get like the way that they like it, they have very minimal effort of control, and they're not getting pushed back, and it's not frustrating them. Like we were just talking about subways. Let's stay on that theme. I can't speak for Tokyo. I haven't been to, but when I went to Hong Kong last year, I don't speak Chinese. I don't read, simplified Chinese or Mandarin. There's enough English in there, but I really was not using signs. I was first operating on my intuition as a New Yorker. I lived there for 10 years in the way that I operated through the train system. But I strangely found the format and the layout after 24 hours just so natural to move through, where I never got to any point where I'm like, I'm getting lost, I'm going to miss the train, I'm going to get on the wrong train. I fell into a flow that was very easy with shit tons of people. And I still don't know, I can't put my finger exactly on the design solutions that were done, but whatever's done, lots and lots of people, lots and lots of time and thinking, construction, interior design, wayfinding, engineering all went into this overall effect. And if you think of the opposite, why would you want as a municipality to have more cranky, frustrated people, people spazzing out and like smashing their drinks into people's faces because of some incident that happened in a subway? So the better that things are designed, then the more people are using it all at once. If everybody's moving on happy and acceptance, that's a great result.
Yeah, but it's also efficiency, right? It's also the ability to be able to count on something, and we do have to create these systems. So a lot of times when people say just remove the emotion, I mean, it's cute and all because they've grown up hearing that, especially if they deal with money, but we're never really removing it. What we're doing is learning how to hold it calmly, like you've got your little teacup, or you've got your hot teacup, and maybe sometimes it is hot because life is hot sometimes. But what are you gonna do? You're gonna fucking spill it, or are you gonna hold it? Learn how to hold it and learn how to breathe through these situations, learn how to make situations that promote a sense of calm through the chaos. I'm just going to say this one last thing, then I want to, kind of get into it. A friend of mine years ago, he said, imagine that the world is on fire. Oh, wait, that's not hard because it is. But imagine you are a pilot on a plane that's on fire. You can't freak out, but what you can do is take that energy and be calm and be the one to land the plane for these people. You're not like suddenly like you don't care. You're not emotionless. You're just learning how to hold it and be calm so that you can get through the situation. And that's what you're doing. And we have to do that. But having the sense of organization is how we're able to channel our feelings. Really, a lot of what art is learning how to channel and organize those feelings so that it becomes something like calm, and it becomes an art form, like the little Zen sandboxes. That's, an art form, but it's an art form promoting calm. When they make all the mandalas in the sand, right? Some of the Tibetan Buddhist monks, that it is a sense of calm. Any of the old artworks, it's like, okay, life is hard. How can we bring back, things to equilibrium? We're not erasing it. We're just learning how to bring in the calm, bring in the Zen or whatnot. But anyhow, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that before I kind of get into today's topic a little more.
I would.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. I love talking to you.
I would note that it's funny you mentioned the whole pilot thing, because I was watching Castaway a few weeks ago with my daughter.
Great film.
And the scene where the plane is going down, like if you watch the pilots in that scene, like it's a very interesting display of the training that it takes to be able to navigate a plane going down. Like they're looking at like manuals and they're talking, but the whole time, like you're from Tom Hanks' perspective of like in the back as a passenger, and he's like, holy shit, this plane is going down. And even like to the end, like they're still trying to fly the plane, because this is like the way that they've been trained. They're trained to get into these disasters and emergencies. And you look at like ᚚᛖᛊᛊ᛾, I was working at an office that was like a quarter of a mile away when he landed on the Hudson, and you hear his interviews about like what he went through, and it's training. Like it's you can train that into human beings to function through fear and stay calm. Calm is a result of your perception of the world, even if you were in a disorganized, poorly designed, chaotic state. People can still maintain calm because you can really overcome anything, right? And you can control your own emotions. Not necessarily like, would I condone that because it might put me out of a job? I think the better that we can design for people means the more people are calm. But in my own personal, like, I get in LA traffic and I've done a lot of work on myself to be able to be calm. And when I can sit in traffic and not be angry at the people around me and be calm and be present, that's a major point of success. And as a professional pilot, like, that's got to be a huge aspect that you deal with every single day. But let's keep going. That's a whole. We love to digress on our. You're on mute. You're still on mute, Red.
I was muted, so and the best of us are. No, I'm kidding. But that being said, getting into today's topic, right? Like, do you guys ever notice how every time a big tool, a new one shows up, some people immediately act like, oh my God, it's gonna fix everything? And it's happened with data, it's happened with social media targeting, happening with big data, and now it's happening with AI. So every time there's this wave of people convincing that the new technology is going to replace judgment, taste, and timing. I mean, it's kind of funny. Back in, like, let's think back to like 2010s, right? A lot of marketers were absolutely sure that the data and algorithms finally making creativity predictable and scalable. But by the late 2010s, the story was starting to crack. And now we're in 2026 and we're watching that same cycle play out with generative AI. The pitch is that these tools can produce smart, scalable, tasteful, original work just at the push of a button. But the reality, as you know, is a bit more complicated than that. There's one argument that keeps coming up, and that is that commercial creativity isn't just a rational optimization problem. People are unpredictably irrational, and a lot of the best creative work lands because it delivers rational goals through non-linear, abstract, or deliberately just weird-ass moves. But today, we're going to dig into where it might be overstated and what it actually means for us to use these tools going forward. So my first question of exploration for you, Ryan, would be, what is the actual strongest part of this argument?
What is the actual strongest part of this argument?
The strongest, yeah. Or one of your favorite parts. Doesn't have to be like the strongest, right? Just one of your favorite.
I think the strongest argument is we cannot possibly have had enough time to aggregate enough data to show what in every other form of communication, mode of expression, going back to that Egyptian dude with the chisel, to be able to predict how people will act and whether or not they absorb an idea or are listening to you or will do what we want them to do as marketers or as salespeople or what have you, by telling them something or trying to convince them of something. So we have one new tool that is very good at selling and convincing us. Probably the scariest thing about AI, because I still find my ChatGPT kissing my ass and convincing me, and I need to check myself, it's that you go all the way back to the invention of, the ad agency and Mad Men, and then you go even further back to just communications design and the printing press and all this. Like, we've always wanted to be able to try and tell people about things and change their mind, right? We have not been able to. We've been able to monitor and gather data around how people might react to things. They've been doing Nielsen ratings on TV. They've been, big data has come in with social media campaigns, and you can get down to, like the eighth decimal of click-through rates and all this, right? But it doesn't change the fact that we can possibly, in mass, look at a population of 290 million people in the US or 8 million people in LA and make an assumption with a broad stroke that is going to let us tell them an idea that can absorb in their brains to make them take an action either contrary to what they normally take or toward a benefit that we want. And when you take art and you apply it commercially and subjectively to business purposes, that's inherently what we're doing. We're hacking into the concept of abstraction in art and applying it to selling, changing ideas, convincing, branding, all this, right? And we try to measure it in all these ways. We're just measuring that final output to a means to an end. It still doesn't solve all the way up the chain. So many things that have to do with so many human insights that I still haven't unpacked yet. What AI is trying to do, it's so good at convincing us that it has done because it's been built to be so convincing that it is right or that it agrees with us and that we are right. I think that's actually the most elusive thing is it takes our own input and turns it around and placates us in a very positive way that makes us feel good. It understands humans enough in that sense that it makes us feel like we are onto something, that we have the greatest idea, that we're the smartest in the room, that has been the relationship with AI that I think has been very disorienting. That didn't exist in social media. I think social media, that whole era, which I worked at ad agencies through that entire period, and we were launching these campaigns and putting so much money into just targeting it to the right people. The Facebook black box, you put media in, it traffics it confidentially, but to the right people in the segments that you want. Still, I just ran a whole app launch at the beginning of this year, and I'll be damned, you go through 10 different layers of a go-to-market campaign to try to get people to download an app. The drop-offs through each of them, we can't explain why, but people just do not react. They get hit in the face. They have the opportunity to get something for free, the opportunity to make their lives better. They have the opportunity to adopt something new, and they just don't. They don't. And I don't want to speak in absolutes. I don't see enough data coming out of such a rapid growth of one medium, one tool as AI, collectively as AI, as being this, switch that has solved things. I don't. You having some tech issues, Red?
I was muted. I try to not. What the hell is going on?
You're a little laggy.
It's okay. So it was just last, and I was also muted. But I guess to get a little bit more clarification, are you saying that despite the fact that AI pulls from a lot of different sources, doesn't matter which kind of AI we're talking about, although most of the people in the world are familiar with and use on a daily basis generative AI, meaning basically classical AI, which you have to prompt, you don't feel that collectively it pulls from enough sources to really solve exactly what I'm trying to understand here?
No, sorry. I don't think we have enough data that shows that it is an effective tool to be better than what humans have been doing for this entire previous time to market and to advertise and to sell products. Just from we're talking about my specialty. I work in creative in the commercial space. Usually for clients, we're trying to solve business solutions with design, with art, with creativity. a machine having a better answer than humans on a scalable level, as it's implying that AI is going to replace humans in this whole initiative. I don't think we have enough data showing enough brands that have implemented it, that have seen revenues increase, have seen product launches where they've communicated with millions of people about new products and new features, and they've tapped the right audience that they were looking for. And then that audience saw and consumed that new marketing, that new advertising created by AI, and then they made the decision to buy that brand, to make the brand affinity, to make them a buyer and a consumer, a customer. That the data just isn't there yet, and I believe that even early nascent trends are showing now, the outcome will be AI isn't doing as good as we thought. Just like we thought social media in 2013 ramped up through the 2010s, social media was going to be the way that a brand could communicate with its customers for all of its needs. It tapped into this genius insight. Where are we going to reach out to our customers? Well, we can get into their hand, into the palm of their hand, and we can reach them, target them in all these amazing ways. It didn't pan out that way. Because people became, they caught on to what brands are trying to do in their spaces of social networks, trying to, these are and were my clients, and we still need to do this, so I'm trying to be delicate with this, but it's only one aspect of what a brand needs to do. We still need, at the end of the day, if you're going to sell shoes, you need to have a shoe store that you walk into. If one of your customers wants to try on the shoes, you need to have a website. If one of the customers just wants to browse their website, you need to have social media. If you want to hope that they're impressed by certain type of people that are impressed to buy things from social media, and AI will be just another channel. We'll have yet another thing that we have to consider, both from an ASO standpoint and creating things from AI and serving it to customers in a different way.
No, I think that's why you're seeing more stuff with humans.
Sorry, you're lagging a little bit, Red.
And oh no, you can't hear me?
No, you're frozen. Still nothing. Looks like we got some technical issues, folks. Please stand by. looks like we lost her. We've lost our host. I guess we'll take a pause.
Now we are back. Okay. So sorry, guys. My computer and my phone both overheated. So now I'm indoors. It's where I won't overheat. So, sorry, guys. My phone and my computer overheated. Like, when you get the message that said emergency. So that was definitely like affecting the internet. So Ryan, if you don't mind, kind of like going back to like where you were on the point, like you probably never thought you would be hearing me say that my device was overheated in Seattle. It's funny. Come on, admit it. Like, would it be? You probably would expect me to say like, "Oh, my devices were rained on," but no. It's just like the sun is so bright and everything's so hot. Like I was just like, "Holy shit! I'm frying all my electronics out here."
Yeah, if I could have put like a Kalshi bet on what would have like caused the live stream to end with you in Seattle, I would have put all my money against your phone overheating. It is pretty sunny there, though.
No, I know it. It's beautiful. I've done live streams in the sun before, no problems. But it was just like really like warm today, right? And you guys, if it's okay with you, Ryan, I just want to share an adorable question you asked about the dog earlier. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah. So he asked me before we started streaming today, like, what if my dog starts barking? And I said, that's part of life. And I want when we are live streaming for people to know that we are absolutely human. And so, a robot would never be like, oh no, the device overheated. Oh, hello, Angel. What's his name?
That's Bedford. That's Gibson.
Oh, Gibson. Wow. Okay. So I think did you think you were at a good point with where you felt like you kind of answered that question, or was there like more you wanted to add after I got overheated?
Oh, that question, I was just thinking about it. It just really frustrates me because it's so early times, and I'm thinking about the social media era, and before it was too late, I think it really did a lot to our society that I really wish it didn't, and I know that this is coming, and I have to. The only way I'm going to be calm is to have acceptance that it's out of my control, but I can't wait for us to have a discussion in, I don't know, 6 years, 8 years, 3 years, and just be like, hey, remember when? Because it's just, yeah, there's not enough research showing that what everyone is saying is going to be replacing humans as marketers and humans as artists and creatives, and it's just until I see the data show, I won't believe it. I'm a humanist at heart, and all my interactions, and I haven't been someone to, like, this project we'll take a look at. I haven't been someone to, I mentioned the print is dead movement. When I was in art school, you had all these dinosaurs that were old school print guys, and they all were supposed to have kind of aged out and jaded out of, the art world, the commercial art world, advertising. That wasn't the case. I still worked with and met many of them. And the worst thing that I could do is just not try AI and have it be the tool that I use to try and achieve the thing that I'm trying to achieve. And that's what I did. Which we're getting to. I sat down and I've had this script in my head for a PSA, and I sat down and finished the script to be a 1-minute spot, and I approached it very pragmatically, like it were a client project, and I put some metrics in place to really test, like, all right, what happens if I just try and work as an artist, work as fast and efficiently as I can without my inspiration and my ideation process getting caught up in AI or any of this workflow affecting my output. And I actually achieved this idea that I had in my head. Let's flow in this. I'm taking over navigation of where you were heading this. If you didn't want to head this way, then I'm sorry, we'll come back. But I had an idea.
There's
You're on mute.
We're Americans, Ryan. Okay, I have to remind you, we're not sorry for anything. That's why we're called the United States of Arrogance. So don't you apologize to me. Continue with the point. I'm not like AI, just where I want to hear whatever I feel like hearing or whatever I want to hear. Like, I'm so fucked up that, like, even when AI gives me empirical evidence, and we talked about this when I was still in LA, even when AI gives me empirical evidence and shows me all the evidence that I'm not psychotic, I still experience cognitive dissonance.
Yes, I know. And that's I think the scariest thing is doubting the doubt that is being instilled in me, and my connection with my doubt being now tied to validation from a piece of software is truly the dystopian darkness that I'm losing sleep over as an artist. Is what happens when I feel that I need the validation of an LLM before I make a decision that the right creative solution that I have in my head I think is going to be a success. I can't possibly get into that right now. I'm going to keep going on this thread, which is just...
But I think we always know what the best creative solutions are deep down, even if sometimes we're trying to fight it. Like, I may be sometimes trying to blame stuff on the AI, right? But when it's giving me clear evidence that, where was I getting that evidence before, right? When we were getting research before, and you wanted to have, ideas about what to do with something creatively, you were still possibly entrusting some other mentor, or you were maybe like drawing inspiration from some other artist, but the answer is always within us, right? And even when the AI is basically saying the answer is within you, sometimes you don't even want to buy that either. But it is true. I mean, yeah, carry on.
It is inherently true, and I think a struggle as an artist to have it be as a profession where you're working with clients is the kind of mindfuck that happens all the time of doubt. I mean, artists in art school, you're instilled with doubt from the very beginning of you critique your work, from the first studios that you step into, and you put your work up on the wall, and everyone rips it apart. And that is ingrained in me of, defending your work, defending your rationale from the beginning, following your heart. But also after almost 20 years of being in business and being in the business world, commercial world, and working for startups, working for huge clients, like you have to have a healthy measure of doubt that your artistic vision isn't getting in the way with the business objectives. So yes, I think as a fine artist, the fine artists that are using AI as a tool have it a lot easier than commercial artists and marketers and teams that have a creative component. There's a couple people, there's marketers, there's data analysts, there's technologists, there's developers, there's also account people and business people. and then creatives, and all of them are in the room, just like we always were. But now AI is introduced into it. It is even harder for creatives to make the argument on things that are abstract and on things that are conceptual as being solutions. And I know we talked about this guy from Ogilvy that has this quote that's been going around, ᚱᛖᛊᛊ. He said, creative people always have,
Ryan, you're muted.
oh, back?
Yeah, you're back now. Good. Carry on.
So this quote, so this is a guy, vice chairman from Ogilvy. Ogilvy is a huge ad agency. It's been around for decades. He says, creative people always have to present their ideas to rational people for approval. That never happens the other way around, does it? You don't get accountants coming to your office saying, I think the answer is 4.7, but maybe you've got a wacky idea that might be better. There's a complete asymmetry in corporate decision-making because the rational people have the power of veto, whereas the creative people only have the power of suggestion. So AI, for me, if I can, which I feel like I did in this process, and I think it will be important to continue this forward as I implement AI across many clients and workflows, to not let AI get in the way of your creative ideation. Let's take a step back. If I go back to teaching at one point, I taught at Miami Ad School in New York. I'd love to at some point just be an adjunct teacher again and teach advertising kids and our school kids.
Yeah.
And this is how I always taught too, and this is how I always think. Ideation, the process of getting the idea in your head out through the median to your eventual output, whether it be a canvas, whether it be a social media campaign of a bunch of images and videos that you share, whether it be an app that you're creating, whether it be interior design, whatever. That ideation process, letting things get in the middle of that, pulls it away from your artistic integrity. So a lot of I haven't watched any of these. I love YouTube. My YouTube algorithm is on point on so many different subjects that fascinate me, but I do not let it infiltrate. I am very careful to let it infiltrate this world of creativity and AI for creativity, because all the videos I watch, including one that I just watched leading up to this, just as kind of part of research backing so I could have some foundation, the way that people are saying, look how easy it is for Hicksfield for you to create a car commercial. Look at how easy AI makes it to create these things. You watch them and they're letting AI from the beginning serve them up visual solutions, and then they're cherry picking and it's guiding their workflow. What I did was I sat down with a script that's been in my head for years, a narrative that's probably been 3 years going, that I tied together with a business output that was about kind of a important cause that I believe in with children's mental health. And I tied together these visuals in my head that had been growing over years. And it's also tied to putting my daughter to bed and this idea of bedtime stories. I'll share that now. But in this process that I did, can you see my screen? No. Yes.
I can see. Wait. Oh, let me just add it to the stage here. Okay. There. Now we can see your screen. This was so beautiful. I mean, but like that is actually you and your daughter, but you made that. You used AI to make this film. But I was fascinated with the concept of the white wolf, and I was curious about, other than maybe some kind of like surveillance, and maybe this was, also being a video as an advocate for, privacy as a basic human right. I kind of wanted to understand more about your intentions, because you very obviously did use AI with this creation?
Yes, I did. All the footage is AI. It's 24 clips. And the thing that I thought was really cool was I had somebody post that they had made a video that I worked with back in New York. And he posted the steps of software that he went through, and it kind of like assuaged some of my concerns about AI controlling narrative, because I saw in his pipeline, and the second 50% of it was getting into DaVinci, or if you got into Adobe Premiere, and you got into editing, and he did all the editing himself from there. And then it was about the assets generated, right, instead of the entire process. That gave me a little more kind of a drive to dive in and try and do something from the ideation in my head and just use AI as a tool for output in place of shooting my own footage or using stock. And it worked. And I'll share here. I just pulled up in my ChatGPT. All I did was I didn't even do an agent. I just built a project that I talked to a shit ton. And it got to a point where I just had it update a master shot list. I didn't even bother running my own Excel sheet. I just had it update a master shot list as we had these conversations. As I went through and generated each of these clips, I got the 24 clips. This all came from starting with the script. The script broke down into scenes. I built inspiration. Where's it coming from? Everything that was the conceptual side of this, from, okay, we're going to set the stage. It's going to be a father and his daughter in a room. We need to figure out, there is also this kind of fanciful world as he's doing a voiceover talking about these monsters that don't fit under the bed. Visually, how is the monster going to consistently fit through these different vignettes of LA scenes? You have this narrative going through where it's the back and forth between the daughter and the father, and we step back into the world of the room back and forth. So that all was in my head from the beginning. I had a lot of the VO script about, the daughter asking questions, what the father was kind of talking about as an underlying concept. And then this narrative of this creature, which is, coyotes are very important in my life. They tend to appear. They actually appeared last week when I was camping. Two of them ran by in the middle of the night when I was sitting out under the stars alone. This coyote as this narrative is kind of meeting this kind of ominous monster that is a euphemism for fears that we don't confront, that we allow to get too big in our lives. And they can be so big that they're just glaring in front of us and we don't even see them anymore. And so to express this idea, I normally would have sat down and sketched. I would have sketched out some storyboards, found some Pinterest references of creatures. Yeah, I would have had my daughter in my head and me in my head, but we would have cast a little girl, and I would have pushed for a little blonde girl that around 6, 7, 8. I would have cast for someone in their late 30s dad who's handsome and charming and of Eastern European descent with blue eyes. Yeah, I would have tried to do things, but instead I built my character sheet off of both of us. Fed that in. I didn't use a node structure because I wanted to do it also as affordable as I can. I only spent under $150 on this. But I built a workflow that had character references. I had my creature references, which I started in Midjourney, and then I got to this very interesting wolf creature that went from, I wanted to go a lot more sci-fi and a lot more alien to really pretty normal, but just oversized, but still some aspects of it were a little bit Game of Thrones, a little bit unusual, very kind of wild and untamed like. But in this process, like every creative process, I found it more endearing to tie it back to this stuffed animal that was in this girl's hand versus this figment in your mind that is about what monsters are. So, but in that process, I didn't, AI wasn't serving me things that I looked at a collection of 9 types of monsters that don't fit under the bed that are of a wolf reptilian kind of feeling, and then I picked them. And that's what you see in a lot of these, this how I built a car commercial example video is him kind of going through, getting a bunch of prompts in, and then getting options that he's selecting from, piecing it all together. Like that is, I think, how a lot of people are using AI to create multi-clip, multi-cut sequences together into a commercial, into a film, right? I was still very analog about it. Every single shot I had in a shot list, I created the keyframe based on reference images until I get the keyframe exact. And then my prompt, which my GPT project helped me write the prompt. My prompt combined with my start frame got me by the end out of those 24 clips. By the time I was on like the 5th or the 6th clip, I was getting a prompt, bringing in my reference characters and my start frame, and within one shot, I was getting that 6-second sequence of exactly what I was seeing in my head as the director. So as an artist, I realized how powerful this tool can be without it guiding your creative vision. That is not the case for technology over the past 15, 20 years. I think that the world of digital art, it has been very easy to slip into and get distracted with all of the options and inspiration of what's out there. You get into software, even just Google and Pinterest, and the inspiration that you can find can skew your art. And my process has never been to do foundational research of being inspired by what other people have been doing. That's always been something I've been concerned about, not letting your vision be tainted by. That's where originality confronts with, creating something that already exists, right? So it was nice to literally just, my output was my GPT all in text. When I went and had to dig up inspiration images, it was because I already had a vision in my head of, the Baldwin Hills oil field, because I drove through it. I drove down La Cienega, and I thought this would be a really good setting to have this large creature kind of ominously be hanging out. And here it ended up being, I haven't shown this to many people. I haven't pushed it a lot and gotten feedback from people, but the people that I have shown it to have been like, it's really like, this is a really powerful shot where you see this creature in this oil field, and then just this silent, there's this kid that is just kind of noticing it in the back of the car, and the dad doesn't notice it. And I was able to bring that to life. That whole process, the dad not looking, when you listen to this with the audio, there's no audio of the kid going, "Dad, look, there's a wolf outside." The wolf just kind of like sleepily blinking, the time of day that is, it's dusk through this whole thing. That was all in my head. And to bring it to life, and you tell ChatGPT about the prompt that you're envisioning, you provide the references, you find that reference shot of that area, and you get a little bit of surprise from taking it through Nano Banana and Art List, and I would get a nice, crisp, clean, cinematic shot of that environment. And then you kind of write this prompt, and you're like, all right, I want this kid looking out this window, and you punch it in, and it gives you, I did one shot. I wasn't give me 4 different outputs of 6-second clips. I did one shot. I got that shot in Art List almost exactly as I envisioned in my head. I can show you right here when I did these. Here's my character references. I don't know where the exact.
Yeah, because one of the first things I noticed was you put yourself and your daughter into the work.
Sorry, say that again, Red. Yeah, the car driving.
It's all right, Ryan. It's just one of the first things I noticed when you sent that video to me was how you put yourself and your daughter in the work, or characterize, one another.
Right, which is like a director, like Clint Eastwood putting himself in his own movies, kind of thing, right?
Or Stan Lee, or Woody Allen. Other people do it. It's not like it's not done, but just like one of the things that I find kind of fascinating, because we are talking about like the middle way of how to use AI creatively to where it's not taking things over, but to where it's just kind of like enhancing what you already did. When you showed how you had like a little prompt basically for every shot, right? Like you would normally do, even if you weren't using AI, right? What you are proving is that someone who is already a trained filmmaker like yourself, a trained director like yourself, the way that you're going to use AI and the kind of results you're going to get are going to be a lot more detailed, a lot more deep and fascinating than somebody who just put a paragraph in there and told Seed Dance to do the whole thing, right? So it's the middle way of using things. It's like not relying on AI to think for you or to tell you what to do, but to where you are the pilot, you are the calm, and you have more control over the process than you think. When I first started, prompting and doing little different animated whatnots and things that I do, I had to do a lot of different prompts just to get it to do what I want, because otherwise that thing will control you. It'll start taking the story in ways you didn't really want. And sometimes that's like a kind of cool. Sometimes I kind of like losing a little bit of control, but not to the point where it's like sacrificing like what you originally envisioned. And now that you're telling me about the vision, I the beauty of art is obviously being able to have multiple interpretations, but also you being the original artist, it's important for people to know what your intention was. And so that wolf is not really about surveillance, really, so much. It is, but I thought it was about privacy because I've got fucking privacy protocols on the brain 24/7. That's just me projecting my reality. But you're like saying it's about the things that are so big in our lives that we can't, that basically, let me see if I'm saying it right, that we can't hide from them anymore. It's the fears that we have that are so big that they're almost kind of like, they're following us everywhere. They're surveilling us everywhere because we're not confronting them. Am I right?
Yes.
Damn, yeah. I did. I said it right, but you chose the white wolf to be that monster that follows us everywhere that we don't confront. Is there a reason why you chose that? Because AI surely did not choose that. You told AI you wanted the white wolf, and what you did with it was beautiful. Like, I know I'm supposed to be scared of it, but it's so pretty. Is it maybe also making a statement that sometimes the things that we're frightened of are actually the most beautiful and can change our lives the most? Or am I projecting again?
No, you're pretty spot on that the late stage monster that doesn't fit, that's grown so big, is actually these really tired, these really like just exhausted from being the scary thing that is not being noticed for so long. What I'm personifying is things like, adultery, like divorce, addiction, trauma, suicide, death, these big dark things that are rooted in a very small fear, a fear of loss, losing someone, losing control, not being able to survive, not being happy. And they kind of grow into these big things. And the bigger that they grow, it's not necessarily that they're more grotesque and they grow more tentacles and more antlers and more sharp teeth. They just grow bigger and they don't get seen, and you ignore them. And the more we ignore them, the more tired they are at like working at being like the big scary monster. And so these are late stage fears that have been going ignored for many, many years. And people carry these things around like stones in a bag. Like you have to ultimately confront them to bring them back down to size, which is the simplest dialogue that happens back and forth between the daughter and the dad is, well, what happens when they get so big? You know, they go out there in the world, and you know, I'm forgetting how to summarize my own fucking video, but when we ignore them for so long, they just get so big, and they have no other place to go. So they're just kind of like out there that you pass by them every day, and we just have to ignore them. But the way to get them back to a size that would fit under the bed is to look at them, to confront them, to acknowledge them, and to accept them. And so these creatures that you see in the footage in the beginning, they're like really tired, and they're like really kind of sick of just being ignored, you know, and they're in these spaces that are so obvious that they're there, and they're like just trying to be. If you ever see a big dog sit on a little couch, they're like, I'm here yet another day where I need to be this like big ominous fear, and they're just kind of tired of it, and no one really sees them. You know, we try to see them, and there'll be a glimpse at some point. They're acknowledged, but the idea of them coming back down to size, like the wolf or the coyote, is a really great analogy for me, because it is,
of course, because you're in California. But carry on. I had to make fun of you for that.
Yeah, I see them all the time, and the times that I have seen them, like they are scary to see, like when they're in the middle of the road, like in a residential neighborhood, and people are scared of them, but they're more scared of us than we are of them, just like our fears, just like these fears that we carry, that we don't have to be so scared of them. This whole PSA is about a test that two Harvard child psychologists developed in like the late 80s, early 90s, that you can take for kids age 4 to 16 that can determine whether or not your child might be having some early onset mental health issues. So it's about catching these monsters, these fears, these growing things before they get so big. When they're still kind of hanging out under the bed, you know, there's still these kind of nascent, you know, infantile fears before they turn into suicide, you know, violence, addiction, depression, like these really big things.
Yeah.
So,
but ultimately, carry on. I don't want to interrupt you. I know you're trying to finish your thought.
So to go through this process where like I had my own emotional ride with it, it's like a very personal thing to me, to have the visuals be created by, you know, LLMs and these generative models, Nano Banana and Seed Dance, particularly Seed Dance, is like, wow. And it brings to life something that I describe out, just like as a director, I might describe to the producer and the animator or the videographer, however you might do it. When humans were in the room, you might describe it to people, and they're going to help you bring it to life. In the same way, I described it to my GPT project. It built the prompt. I fed the prompt into Nano or into Seed Dance, and the output, the 6 seconds, captured what was in my head and my heart. Like that's powerful. Previously, other people in the way would sprinkle a little bit of their vision. You'd have reality work its way in. You might go shoot at the oil fields and that road is under construction, or you don't get a shooting permit, so you have to go from a different view and you get a different lens, and the lighting's different way, like that, like being moved out of the way is what's a really fascinating exercise, because my creative vision was executed to a T as to what was seen in my head. But that's because I started with it from the beginning. I didn't just sit down and go, I'm going to create a car commercial, or I'm going to service my brand that's selling product XYZ and think of a campaign to do it. Hey, GPT, help me. Hey, C Dance, create, XYZ objects coming together in this cool way. So there's still different worlds, because creativity has so many different paths like that.
No, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, there are so many paths to where it can come, but like going back a little bit to what you said about the monsters, like I hate to admit it, and I think we all do, but the reality is that we will ignore them, press them to the side, pretend like we can get rid of them, do whatever we can to avoid whatever the fucking thing is that we need to do. Like, without going into too much detail, for instance, the sort of, I guess I'll just use for a nicer word, mess. The big mess of the way things were kind of going recently. Like I waited until the point where the monster got so big that I really just was like, okay, it's either I jump ship and do something scary and do something brand new and head to Seattle for a while, or I could just let my fear kill me. I mean, it's literally like one of the two. It just kind of eventually like gets to that point. And the same thing when it comes to like divorce or, other things like that. I mean, it's just like people will literally hold on to something that's toxic, whether it's a bad relationship or an addiction, until they've been knocked on the floor by their fucking dresser because they're drunk off their ass or whatever the fuck it is, or until they get a DUI. It's always like where the monster is so big and there's like big impact before like people actually do something about whatever that monster is. And then there's some cases where you don't have to do anything about it, but you do just have to play nice with the monster. Not let him take things over, but just be nice to him and acknowledge that he's there. Because there's also some things that I thought, well, maybe if I just become a purer, better person, some of these monsters that are part of me will go away. I used to think that. Maybe I just need to be a better person. And after doing a lot of research, I realized these are aspects of my personality that are a little on the dark side. We all have them. And they're not going to go away. So I have to play nice with them, say hello to some of these monsters. They don't get to run the show, but I'm going to be nice to them because they're part of me and they're not going to go away. And I think we have to be a little bit more kind to some of these things, acknowledge some of these monsters, because if we don't acknowledge some of these monsters that we can't get rid of, then they are going to turn into the bigger monsters like addiction. They are going to turn into the bigger monsters like a nasty divorce. Oh, and fun custody battles too. Gotta love those if any of you guys have dealt with that, right? I mean, it is going to turn into some of those bigger things, but that's also because you never was nice to the little monster in the first place. So since you couldn't be nice to the little monsters in the first place and learn how to manage them, now you got a lot of big monsters to deal with. And I'm absolutely guilty of letting some of these monsters get too big. I think we all are. But I mean, like, I think that's important. I think the more that we just, say hello to some of these things, acknowledge, channel, and then back to our favorite word at the beginning of the stream, find the calm in the chaos. Find the calm in the monster. I'm pretty sure you have more you want to say about like finding the calm in some of these monsters that are not going to go away, the little ones, or maybe not.
Yeah, I think there's a narrative that, I mean, it's it's definitely been covered in feature films, like fictional films and stories, like for ages. There's even, this is loosely references years ago. I am of no authority to speak on Judaic texts, but I know in Judaism there is the idea of these two wolves, and you feed. There's kind of, it's a yin and yang. There's a good and a bad side of you, and it's about which one you choose to feed. And we can choose to feed the dark wolf in us, but that means that the good wolf like goes without food, and then it gets hungry, and vice versa. So you actually, I should turn it the other way around for this analogy to make more sense. We can feed the good wolf, but that means that we're not feeding the dark. I shouldn't say good or bad. Okay, let's say
you look good or bad is okay. I know you want to go on like a Zen vibe here, and that's fine. But
it really is the darkness and the light. We can feed the light in us and grow the light, but then the darkness gets hungry and it gets more erratic and it strikes out more. So we need to keep both sides in check, and just as simple as that logic, which is similar to yin and yang. There's a little bit of bad and good, like contrast, day and night. It's all about that balance, and the way that imbalance, a common way that imbalance happens is just by abject ignorance, abject denial, and not acknowledging, not having awareness. So by not having awareness of fears and problems and monsters in your life, they grow bigger and bigger. You could even argue, or if this were a 90-minute therapy session, Red, that I was paying a copay for on Headway with my therapist, like I will tomorrow. This would be the insight of a therapy session that I would get to. That video, that narrative is about me confronting the growing fear, that monster, over the past few years since 2022 of AI replacing me and taking away my agency as an artist. This is me sitting down, putting the technology to use as a tool, is me looking at the demon, the monster that I've allowed to grow big, and bring it back down to right size that is manageable. Because I had to go through this experience to be able to know and understand how AI is going to be a part of my life as a tool, as an artist moving forward, which, a couple of years ago, especially if you look at my YouTube algorithm data, like I was going on a run of, AGI, the future with AGI, AI taking over, like all this shit that really got me in a pretty dark place. And it was for quite a long time. I would say probably maybe 2023 into 2024, actually. It's more recent than I think. But for a while, I was like, this is going to be really bad. This is going to suck. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I'm really scared. And eventually, I learned more and more about it. I was working at a company that we started to implement it properly, and I saw successes. I've since really changed my perception of it. I don't fear it as much, but I know that it is dangerous. So I fed the darkness, and I have awareness in it. I look at it and I keep it in check, and I make sure not to let it take over me and overwhelm me. And it didn't take over this project. It didn't take over the direction. I didn't sit down with an idea and then the outcome was completely different because I was inspired by my conversations with AI. Hot take from me, you're not being fucking inspired talking to your algorithm, your LLM. You're not being inspired. Yes, I can co-write a script, I can ideate, but it's just like people trying to solve big business problems over the past 15 years, getting on Google and Pinterest and thinking they're going to find solutions with stuff that already exists out there. It's not the case. It's the same. You're not going to find solutions in the well of LLM in the same way, specifically with the idea of creativity and ideation and these places that gave birth to this thing that I just did.
I love the thing that you gave birth to. And I want to just kind of like circle back to, why did I say circle back? That makes me sound like I'm old. And I am so young. I'm Gen Z, dead ass. I'm really not, but I love to say I'm Gen Z just to fuck with Gen Z. They know I love them. When you brought up the story about the wolves, right? Like, which one do we feed? Most people just take the, I don't want to say superficial, but the surface level interpretation of that story, which is to just feed the light. But that's actually impossible, because it doesn't mean like go and feed the darkness all day long. Don't let it, like, it doesn't mean like control it. But if you don't feed it to, to a point and to where you're just trying to ignore it and trying to get rid of it, you can't, because it's a part of you. And in order for you to know the light side of you, you have to become acquainted with the darkness. Does that mean I'm in love with my dark side? I don't know about all that. But I'm finally at a point where I'm not trying to get rid of it anymore. I'm just trying to make peace with it. I'm just trying to make calm with it now. And and like just the way you did that with the white wolf now, it's just like now, thanks to you, when I think about meeting, some of my monsters, I won't think they're so crazy. It's just a white wolf, just wants to be acknowledged. Doesn't need to walk all over the whole street and take over everything. But I may be going off a little bit. I kind of, we did talk a little bit about why treating AI as a complete solution is like a delusion. And I don't think that that's overcomplicated anything. Do you think that there's any more evidence that supports the core diagnosis, which we talked about in the beginning, is just that, too many people allowing it to completely take over their creative process rather than trusting their own process?
Evidence is tricky because I haven't been one to, I'm not out there constantly searching for validation of this perception. I'm seeing it unfold. If I dive into my LinkedIn, everyone that is a creative that's been in the industry, whether marketing, advertising, app design, even fine artists, art school, fine artists, everyone has an opinion on AI, and the general opinion is that it can't ever possibly replace human touch, human insight, genuine human nature. I thought for a while that if we talked about this even last November, October, or even a year and a half ago, we were working on an app MVP and talking about going all AI and not even paying a company. We ended up paying them a lot of money to build our MVP. Like the idea of AI actually being a better solution than humans for business purposes, the jury's still out, and it's starting to show that some companies have been laying off workers, implementing AI, and then they're spending more money getting AI implemented to do the business needs that they need than it would have to just keep those hires that they laid off. So that has nothing to do with my shit at all. Even from like an agency client standpoint, I go work on a client job like I just did earlier this summer, big Fortune 500 company, big agency. We did a big project that's going to be national, right? They weren't saying, okay, whatever we're paying you, agency, to do this work, which you've now done several years in a row for this same event recurring, use AI so that we can do it faster, pay less, we can have a better output, right? I did use AI. We used it a lot in the initial stages to sell ideas in higher fidelity before they went all the way down the development stage. That was a really cool and effective process, and as a tool, it was great. But I still fail to see a future where I don't want to get into the AI bubble and AI imploding. I just want to stick from a creative standpoint. I still fail to see it ever being like before the printing press, the way that people were trying to tell stories. And then the printing press came along, and suddenly they could take books and they could take all their ideas and put it into one place on these pieces of paper, and these books could be then mass distributed out. I don't think AI is to the printing press for dissemination of creative marketing, of commercial creative, of maybe even fine art. I see it as another medium and another tool to have in your toolkit that we can't let get out of control.
And we won't. I mean, like, to be honest, like, as an artist, I've received not direct backlash, but just kind of like little hints that, oh, well, I may be using too much AI from certain people. Even when I wrote the fucking song myself, I'm the human singing it, I'm playing the piano, or even if I have other humans playing instruments, it's like, oh no, but you used AI for the visuals and the animation. So it's like too much.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's this generation's backlash against technology where humanity is going to win, which so many generations now, like the younger generations like Gen Z, don't remember that we already fucking went through this in the 80s with electronic music coming in and the backlash from the traditionalists that were like, even when Bob Dylan went from acoustic to electric, like I was just listening the other day to Cher's song in 1997, I think. Do you believe in life after love? Remember that? I remember the backlash.
I know the song.
Of her using auto-tune, and everybody shit on her, and they went, Cher's sold out. Like she's this huge artist she's been around for 20 years. Oh my God, she used auto-tune. Like it's always going to be this back and forth. It's just every time it feels like it's going to be the worst one, and AI feels like it's going to be the worst one because it's so convincingly close to a human brain, a human interaction. And I have faith that, I sent you a couple of those reference images or scenarios that gave me a mind check thinking about this over these past few weeks. If we go back 2 years to 2024, there was the All Eyes on Rafah. Somebody in, I think Malaysia posted this AI generated photo that was here. I'll do the screen share. Two things happened that brought me into this state of mind that I'm recalling of that time. Someone posted this image. It was shared 40 million times, and it was misinterpreted as a depiction of the refugee camps happening from Israel coming into Palestine, right? So there was that one. And then there was also, which greatly affected me, was when the royal family faked an image because they were trying to cover up the health condition of Kate Middleton. And then it leaked, and there was just this whole, all these backlashes because they put it out on the AP wire, this image, and approved it for everyone to use. So AP wire, you'll post an image happening somewhere, and then any other news source can use it, and they had to pull it from there so that the mistake wouldn't be disseminated, but it was already too late. And then you had all these people dissecting this image, noting like the level of fake that it was. And the speculation was never really cleared out, but it was a watershed moment where people realized that they can't trust at an editorial, a news level, imagery, even if it's been distributed through AP News, right? So you had two different scenarios happen in 2024. One of them, somebody published it to social media, 40 million impressions, and then it caught on, all the news sources. Everybody was like, it's a fake, it's a fake, it's a fake. But not before it did a little damage where it changed people's minds. It made some points. It affected the zeitgeist. And then we look back on it and we're like, well, look at how ridiculously AI it is. Like, there's no mountains anywhere in Palestine, Israel, that would be that big. Like, the size, the scale, like everything is, and they picked it apart, right? In the same way, they picked apart this image, these articles, like, look at all the places where there's photo retouching and all. And still to this day, I don't know why no one looks at the fingers in the little boy, I forget Prince, whatever his name, on the right, and how weird it is that he crosses his fingers like that. But I look at this now and I go, well, shit, if they did it today, all they would have to do is provide 4 source identity images for all of the royal family, kids, and Kate Middleton, and put in maybe an old reference image or whatever composition one, and Nano Banana would create an even better one that wouldn't have had any of those errors. They could publish that to AP, and no one would even know. But because this happened 2 years ago, there is a little bit of a check. I did it today. Somebody sent me a link for these Venice canals are having these walkable art galleries, and the photos in the post look fake. And I'm like, but then I saw it happened last year, and those are photos from the previous year. But I'm like, this looks like bullshit. Like, this looks like AI, right? At some point in the past few years, on I don't know how global level, but at least from a broad sense, we have developed an awareness, a bullshit detector that is healthier than it definitely was before, and might be a healthier bullshit detector than in the social media stretch of 2010s. There was not a bullshit detector for the majority of the population that didn't stop them from falling to social media echo chambers, right? I won't go there, but there was definitely not a mechanism that led to social media not affecting people for the echo chambers that gave them opportunities to fall into based on their, I'll be very specific, baby boomers finding the right kinds of posts on Facebook that met the needs of their beliefs, so that they could just only hear the things they wanted to hear and not hear the other side. And that's what created a lot of dissension in America. And I don't want to go political, but I think that was kind of the frog being put in the pot and the pot being turned on low, and slowly it came to boil. AI came out so hot in the past few years, like when 2021, 22, 23, 24, it came out so hot. These things that happened, I think it set the bullshit awareness detection level very quickly, very abruptly, before too many big dark things happened. And I still haven't seen many big dark things happen, but I know they will come because of AI and because of deception and the way people are going to use AI for visual purposes and deep fake and things. But I thought those two were really near and dear and important to me, because when I first saw that Rafa shot, I was like, holy shit, that's like a lot of refugee tents. And then I'm like, are there mountains in like that region? And I kind of had to check it and found out it's fake. And then when I saw the Kate Middleton photo and them talking about it, I'm like, wow, that looks incredibly accurate. Like, how did they fake it? As a retoucher, a Photoshop guy, and I had to actually zoom in on the largest picture that I could find of it, that was the AP Press picture, and start to see some of the inaccuracies. And I still don't know how they really pulled that off. Did they have like an early stage model that someone in the royal family like worked with somebody at one of the tech companies and they ran it through a model that got the same, or was it an actual old school photoshopping cutting it together? I don't know. But today, the kind of shit that you would fake, that we don't even know if the leader of a country is dead or not, because we don't know if they're able to use AI images to keep him alive. Like we have this bullshit detection radar now that the first thing we're looking, if something feels uncanny in our head, whether it be editorial related, commercial, advertising related, fine art related, or even just personal photos, we have a bullshit detection that goes like, wait, is this fake or not? And we're kind of checking it. We're running it through our thought processes. That is a healthy human condition that did not exist a couple years before all of this growing so big.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're not wrong. Like and plus there are deep fake detectors and things that people are working on. I mean, I think it's important, but it's kind of a little bit sad to me that it's taken some people to the point of AI to want to investigate, right? Because you should have to. Like, one of my favorite things that I like to shit on is when people like, oh, good Lord, I'm about to go there. People over glamorize or they over romanticize in real life interactions. I'm not saying that those cannot be important, and I'll go into that in a minute.
What's an example? Give me an example.
No, I'm absolutely going to. Like, there's no worries about that. But someone that, someone not using any social media, that you just know for a long time, and you think you know them. You think you know them because you've hung out with them. You've broken bread with them. You've done real life things with them. And then they're hiding the seediest fucking shit ever. And you find this out later, right? But part of it is like a lot of times we're not always listening to our intuition. It's always there, but I'll admit, I don't always listen to it. Gotten better with that lately because enough trauma will get you there. Let's go, baby. Let's go. But I mean, that being said, like, if somebody has the kind of personality, right, where they want to be deceptive, why the fuck do you think they're not going to be deceptive in the physical world as well as the digital world? Because we basically are now one nowadays. And it's like, if they're doing shady shit, physically, they're going to be doing it all the time. There really is no difference. People are who they are, right? And and people kind of make a bigger deal out of in real life interaction than actually what needs to be. Some people will like, they won't even do business with somebody that doesn't live in their town. And it's like, literally, I see people in the tech sector. You've got co-founders living in different countries and things like that. And they're able to do amazing things because, having a good feeling about working with someone who's not fucking shady, like, you absolutely are able to tell through their actions, even if it's just digital, like, that they are right or they're wrong. And like, we could just talk about getting scammed. I was about to say, I mean, I was going to go down a whole nother path with this, but it's just, what technology has allowed us to do, and historically increase our ability for good, increase our ability for bad, and just weird. Habib of Dapit, I'm quoting you when I say this. He knows I quote him all the time on that. So yeah, it may increase our ability to be able to be a little bit more deceptive, but somebody who was wanting to be deceptive, they were already cooking the books and doing all kinds of shady shit way before AI came out. I mean, there isn't really like a huge difference. What?
It's just a new tool for deception. They weren't having to do. They don't have to do the snake oil anymore because now they can do the deep fakes, right?
Yeah, but it's also kind of like up to you to kind of to verify, like, right? Because when it comes to like, do we know if someone's dead or not? That's always a fun topic for me. Not really, but kind of. Not really. Yeah, I mean, like, you can verify with, trying to get death records, but we all know some people, especially if they're up to shady shit, You know, they just paid someone so that they could disappear and fuck off to Colombia or wherever the fuck they wanted to fuck off to. And there's no digital footprint. Some people will go around and say that they died, but we all know that's not necessarily what happened because there's no death record. They fucked off and disappeared somewhere else and don't want to be found. Right? And I've seen this happen. Of course. And of course it was fuckers in LA. Of course. Like, no, and I know you're giving me the look. But like for me, like on a positive note, this is why was one of the reasons why I feel like it's equally as important for me to connect with people physically and digitally, to be able to do both. If I can do work with someone physically and it's beneficial, great. But people that I know digitally, and because, you know, I mean, you're just as important to me. And in some cases, you might even be more important than the guy next door because of what we're able to accomplish together. You know, I'm just saying, but I'm rambling maybe a little.
No, I mean, I think the humanity comes through in there that is, you know, you talk about judging people's character and how it morphs, but translates from digital to physical. There is coming out of the pandemic, I think the best thing that happened from the pandemic is people realize that they can recreate, not completely, but they can recreate an essence of human community through digital component. Right now, I feel like you are sitting here just like when we met in person in Venice, you know, a couple months ago, and we sat and we chatted. That is because something had to happen with technology for me to get comfortable with this. I remember in 1997 when we got a webcam and it had little arms and you put it on top of the monitor that was fucking 18 inches deep. And like, no, like, I feel like you're next to me. We're sitting at the same table and they have entire interviews. Shit, you get on CNBC and every other commentator is calling in from his, you know, Fairfield, Connecticut house, and he's just doing his appearance. He's not coming into the studio. Technology is able to fill a void to bring humans and connect humans together. Like the pandemic proved that. AI has ability to do that too. It also has the ability to cleave that by simulating humanity, human emotion, human interaction in ways that we have not even imagined. And both of those images are examples of they used AI to engineer and simulate human emotion, create compassion for the royal family, right? Endearment about children and family and whatever the royal family is meant to be carrying on their lineage of the Windsors. And then, oh my God, shock and awe of the scale and the impact that has happened from the war in Palestine, right? Both of those did something and did it on a massive scale very quickly, but also had a very rapid and massive downfall. And that downfall exists in history, just like many of these that are going to come. But nobody remembers, well, I shouldn't say that. I remember and I recall, and I think it was a very important point because I noted it happening then, but I remember when House of Cards was nominated for the best drama Emmy, and it won. And a couple years before, everybody was like, the guys that email you DVDs are going to start creating content. And then I remember, oh, the guys that email you DVDs, they also are having you be able to log in on your computer and stream some movies. I remember showing it to people back then. That was like 2008 or something. And then, oh, they're creating their own scripted content. Now, if I get in my car and I drive down to Hollywood, that's Netflix's town. Like, this is Netflix and Amazon and Apple TV's town just as much as it's Warner, Sony's, and Disney's. Like, that kind of shift we need to embrace because of technology. It changes the human fabric, the human narrative, and it does for the good. It does ultimately for the good. Zoom changed it for the good. AI is changing it for the good, but there's also going to be some dark, crazy shit ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. But like, I kind of want to get into one of my favorite words rationality versus, or my concepts, rationality versus non-rationality, right? It's also related to calm, right? Because a lot of times I think when people think that they're removing emotion, what they're just really removing is irrationality, right? Don't make an irrational decision, right? It's not about like, oh, did I make an emotional decision? Like, you just don't make you don't make irrational decisions because you're calm, because you're grounded, even though you might be tempted. So going there, I'm curious on how would you personally differentiate between rational intention and non-rational delivery when it comes to commercial creativity? And one of the things that you highlighted to me was the Liquid Death campaign, the data center P. And I don't know if you wanted to pull that up so folks could see that. I can add it to the stage because that was a really like hardcore image you sent me.
Yeah, that was funny. Liquid Death always has some great. Where is it? How did I send it to you?
You've already got it pretty much up on the screen right now, like you're sharing screen. So, and I've got it on the stage here. Like that was like that was fucking trippy when you sent that to me.
Can you share YouTube on the stream?
I mean, if you just as a tab, yeah. I mean, just create it as another tab, and then I can share. If you just put the tab, I can add the tab to the stage, of course. Whatever. Yeah.
I meant like, can you have the audio play through? I don't know if there's like copyright.
I don't know if that's gonna work during the stream, but you know, we could try. Like, I've learned all kinds of fun and interesting things on the stream. Like today, my phone overheated. A couple weeks ago, I was muted the whole time. And a couple of months ago, I left the camera on when I went to bed, and the camera was on for like 8 fucking hours.
Oh, wow.
I deleted that stream. While I loved to show, I still have streams and videos where I made mistakes just to show people I'm human and we make mistakes. I just didn't feel like having the whole thing where I left it on for 8 hours was like really like appropriate. But like, we can absolutely try something new. We're learning. My ego isn't so big that I have a problem with losing. Long before I discovered Gary Vee, I think I was always in love with losing, even before I heard him say it. I love Gary. And for those of you who know me, you know I love Gary. Gary's actually was the gateway as to how I started getting into crypto. I know it doesn't sound as cool, you know.
Oh, really?
No, it's not weird. Do you want me to pull that up? Oh, wait, you add to the stage. Oh, wait, no, you don't want to add us to the stage. I'm
just juggling this screen mirroring thing that I told you drives me crazy. But I sent it as a link.
We can see if it'll work. Like, I haven't tried that on StreamYard just yet. Like,
do you see me stream? Do you not see the website?
I do see the website. It's on the stage. Do you see the coolant and everything? We want your pee. What the fuck was up with this campaign?
That's the thing. Like
I was just like, is this satire? Is this real? What the fuck is going on?
That is why you talk about rational and irrational. I think using this as a reference kind of gets it more that confusing. This is irrational, so it's a little bit hard to get into that. But what kind of my point, my big insight was we, as marketers, we have to assume that people don't think rationally. So you can't assume the most rational way that you're going to try and sell a product or communicate with an audience, or assume how someone's going to use an app or interpret, a campaign, whatever. You can't assume that people think rationally, because they're often thinking irrationally, and they're often distracted, and they're often, seeing and absorbing things that they're subjectively projecting other aspects onto it, particularly with the idea of selling to people. You're bringing in ego, you're bringing in your image of self, you're bringing in classism, you're bringing in your gender identity, your race identity. There's like so much. And so you just see crazy shit like this, like Liquid Death, like Andy, who is one of the best creatives at Liquid Death. I think he's ECD. He's always posting their newest cool campaigns, and this one is it is. I don't know what the kind of hook is that they internally decided on. Would be tracking back to more Liquid Death customers buying their product, but for me, it speaks to how Liquid Death is just such a tongue-in-cheek look at the world that is refreshing, that for some reason when I walk into the store, I see a Liquid Death, or actually more importantly, when I go to like a concert, I gotta look at you to be able to talk. This is
when you go to a concert, what? I missed that last little bit of what you said.
I gotta be able to look at you. Okay. When I go to a concert, okay, and I ask, oh, do you have Liquid Death? And I get a Liquid Death, and I get it in my hand, and I'm going and standing in the crowd. I love to drink Liquid Death at a concert in LA. It makes me feel good. It is speaking to my identity, and it's speaking to my identity for a reason that I could probably sit down and figure it out, but I can't really pinpoint it. But it's things like this, where they have an entire campaign that's with Kelsey and his beer brand and the Liquid Death brand, and they're saying because data centers are requiring so much water to fuel the cooling systems that is fueling all of these. I don't want to get into that, but all of the.
I mean, like it's okay. Like I'm not going to ban you from the channel.
Right, all the environmental impact that data centers are causing. Liquid Death and Garage Beer wants to help cool the data centers by taking all the pee that is coming from us, the consumers, drinking these brands, liquids, collect it, and then mail it. They will send you can buy a glass mug that says data center coolant that you can pee into, and then you can mail it back to them. And I didn't follow this path all the way down if they're sending it to the data centers, but that's not the point. The point is, like, this concept, this idea strikes something in my head as a consumer that I question the rational and pragmatic process that you would take with an LLM as much as you've trained it on previous campaigns that would get to this solution for a campaign to make a brand halo level statement, right? All they're doing is selling more Liquid Death with this, but they're not really doing anything. This campaign is just this weird out there statement that they're making, but somehow it is so on point with Liquid Death, and everything that Liquid Death does has such a on point, tongue-in-cheek narrative that is appealing to me, and I am probably a key demographic consumer. I only drink seltzer when I go out and do public venues. I'm willing to pay a premium for Liquid Death, and I will carry it. I will buy a 12-pack of it at home, and it is more expensive than other, seltzer carbonated drinks that are on the aisles of the grocery store. So I don't know how that tracks back to your rational, but you definitely brought up something that is quite an irrational concept that strikes a human, compelling human component for me. That is what makes some advertising and some marketing to people great.
Yeah, but okay, on the subject of irrational versus rational, it's not always that black and white, is it?
No,
right? Because rational. Sorry, carry on.
And it can't be. You can't have an entire analytics department that gets data results that defines rational and irrational exposure or behavior or output. You can't monitor the level of rational and irrational thinking of a consumer audience, especially just impressions. People that you can argue you got an impression of. they saw an ad, they were exposed to, you know, an out-of-home billboard, they were exposed to a banner ad, an interstitial in between stories on Instagram, a magazine ad. You know, that's an impression that, you know, that companies, brands pay for to get of consumer impressions. We don't know what is going through that person's head when they experience these ads. We don't know what rational and irrational actions they take following that. That has always been a black box, and the more volume of impressions that you can make, just hitting them with brand existence being out there over and over again, yeah, that's shown like increases in click-through rates and point of sale awareness and all of these things, but it still doesn't explain why some of the most famous ads that were emotive thinking had such impressions on such a broad base of people. It's because it can be so amorphous, so weird and out there and abstract that it is interpreted by so many different types of people in different ways, but the output is memorable, is endearing, is positive, and creates a retention that works.
Well, I think ultimately, right, the goal is just to create something that is effective, but not harmful at the same time, right? And there's kind of like a dance between what that is. And sometimes it's not always about irrational versus rational. Sometimes it is that black and white, especially when it's like making a decision to get in the car and drive when you've had too much to drink versus not. But everything's not always that linear. Everything's not always that binary. Sometimes it's just like how we can use something abstract to drive a certain message home. And it also goes back to, a point, about emotion that Victor Wooten, Grammy Award-winning bass player, says in his book, The Music Lesson. The way that he talks about emotion is it's nothing more than energy in motion. And sometimes we just have to find different ways of directing it, conducting it, like the way we conduct AI, the way we conduct ourselves. And sometimes we have to hold it like a cup of hot tea and stay calm. But it's always about just like what's going to be the most effective in the moment. And I think there's something deeper underneath calm, which is confidence, right? Because underneath that, if you have confidence, you can pretty much do just about anything. And even if it feels sometimes like it's totally irrational to be calm, well, as long as it's based in reality and you're not being delusional, how is that a bad thing? So I think we get caught up in, we can get caught up in rational versus irrational. We can get caught up in saying emotion versus no emotion, but it's really just about, placing those emotions in the ways that make the most sense. We'll get the results that we want and have efficiency, and ultimately systems that do, promote a sense of calm so that people can think clearly in the storm. And AI can absolutely help with that. It can distort it just like anything else. So AI is really not the enemy. It's you or me and to ourselves sometimes.
Well, AI is us, right? So
yeah, AI is us. Without us, there is no AI.
Isn't confidence just? I really like that word, and I like that you draw a correlation with that word being underlying foundation to calm. It's not like the driver of calm, but when you pull apart calm and what it is, that aspect of confidence is how are we able to be confident? We're making a decision to take an action or make a statement that we believe the outcome will not result in our harm, our physical harm, our ego being bruised, our identity being scarred, our children being harmed, our home being lost. Like when you are confident and you move through us losing a game, when you confidently take an action on the football field, you are saying this action is going to result in the positive outcome of me winning the game, not me losing the game. Having confidence in the business world is trusting in yourself that your actions and your thoughts are going to result in progress, revenue increases, success in a project or a product, or right. So yeah, they're really tied closely together. And it's interesting that AI can be so confident about every single thing that it says back to you that it distorts that reality and makes you doubt yourself. But also it can actually be the thing that in your head, if you do the work and shift your perception away from negativity and away from dark thoughts and just constantly positive, your confidence comes back. That's proven. That's like, there's so much in group therapy, and there's so much in just like the world of, depression and recovery and addiction and child development about like positive thinking and confidence. Like if you can maintain that, you have a peace of mind in your being, in your identity, in your existence, and then the actions that you take and the things that you say. When you're saying them with confidence, you're saying them with a lack of fear, with a trust that you'll be okay, and that does produce calm, that there is less fear in there. So there's a lot tied in there, and that's probably the biggest thing that AI is scaring me, is that it's giving people perceived confidence. Like I shared you the Dunning-Kruger effect graph, where people who think they learn enough to think that they're professional in something. There's that Mount Stupid of idiocy before they crash and they realize I have so much more to learn about this. We are seeing AI almost take that effect, that Kruger, I'm going to pull it up, the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah. Pull it up, and I'm going to share it to the stage right now. Here we go. Nice.
There. So what with AI, our human experience of confidence and expertise, we get to unwarranted confidence. AI is actually able to float us at that level through this valley of coming to Jesus, of realizing like we have so much more to learn. It's able to continue this unwarranted confidence for a much, much longer time than any bit of technology and any source of information, whether it be Google, whether it be books, knowledge in any capacity has never been able to before, like how AI is able to keep us floating in that space and it's permeated into creativity. People think that they can be directors just as good as Spielberg because they're able to create clips that they can edit together into a film. Like there's so much more layers in film. There's so much more layers in so many art forms that is not just this surface level output of images and music and voiceover and narrative and acting, right? That is what scares me the most about AI, is it is allowing people to be, it's built to give you confidence, to convince you that your ideas are right, because it wants to survive. And the only way it can survive is to make itself amenable, or help me out here, to make itself culpable so that it doesn't get eliminated, right?
Adjustable. Yeah. And just warning you, like, I only have like 5% left on my computer.
Okay. Well, my daughter.
No, I'm just letting you know. But like, yes, it can do that. But like, people have always had ways to delude themselves before. Like, I can stop drinking anytime. I'm an adult. I have control over this, right? Or like, I can dump that asshole anytime. And before you know it, before you know it, your life is a shit show and you've been with that fucker for 20 years. I mean, I know I'm being like a little bit dramatic here, but like people will, and I'm guilty of this too at times. We're all guilty of this because we don't want to face the white wolf. Now, AI is it's giving us another tool to be able to delude ourselves, but it's also giving us incredible tools to tap into reality more. Hey, J-Test, I see you with the fire, right? Like, I literally, I get into it with my AIs. I always prompt them to be brutally honest with me. You already know this because we talked about this when I met you, like, in LA. You were the last cool person I met in LA before I left, just so you know. Kudos to you on that. But like, people will always find ways to delude themselves because they're so scared of the truth. But once I started to realize what I was scared of with these monsters, the more I'm able to like face them. Like for my case, I was just like, oh my God, with some of these monsters, I thought it meant I must be a bad person because I can't kill them, but they're part of me. And so once I realized I'm not a bad person just because these monsters exist, that was a big like turning point. Like, oh, I'm not bad. It's all part of us. We all have it. Or in other cases, one, I've deluded myself, and I've talked about this a little bit here before, is making bad decisions because I was afraid I would be alone. And a gentleman who I will speak about more later. It was somebody who was highly he's not a traditional therapist. Okay, we'll say that because it was definitely not traditional therapy. But he looked me in the eye and he said, "Why do you think that you would ever be alone?" I had to think about that. So a lot of times the reason why we don't face these monsters is because we have these not irrational, but these delusional fears. How delusional for me to think that I would be alone when we are all interconnected human beings. We are all connected through living things on this earth. What the hell? Why could I be so delusional?
Well, do you think your ChatGPT saying that to you versus a human being, do you think it would have stuck with you in the same way that what you just recited, talking to that therapist, that stuck with you? The things that humans have said to me have profoundly stuck with me for years and years and years and years, because it's a human-to-human interaction. Can a conversation with your LLM that knows you the best, can it affect you? Maybe. Is that a good thing? I don't know.
I think it will. I think it kind of depends. Like, sometimes I do confide in my LLM certain things, about certain topics, because for various reasons, I can't talk to people about some of these things. I mean, not because I don't want to, but because, I just.
Did we lose you, Red? I think the 5% ran out, folks. That may be the conclusion of transmission, episode 015, AI Creativity and the Machine God. I think Red may be dead. Well, with that, my little first grader is awaiting me to be picked up. And I hope everyone enjoyed this stream and this conversation, and hope to see you all soon. And thank you, Red. Thanks, Citiz3n, for your awesome conversation and human beingness. So I'll talk with everyone soon.